Hello, everyone. My name is Ocean, and in this video, I'm going to share my thoughts on leadership, and I'm going to talk about the 4 prompts from this assignment. I'll be talking about different leadership styles. I'm going to be reflecting on leaders that I've watched and observed. I'll be talking about different leadership styles, and I'm going to be comparing task-oriented and people-oriented leadership. And I'm going to also explain why self-awareness and, adapting is important for effective leadership. For my research, I reviewed information from the chapter 3, and I also looked at leadership information from the Harvard Business Review and Forbes articles discussing the modern leadership and adaptability. These sources helped me support my perspective on the topics I'll be discussing today. So, prompt 1. Do you think leadership style is fixed and unchangeable, or can leaders be flexible and adaptable with respect to style, and why? So I believe leadership can be flexible and adaptable rather than fixed, definitely. While people do naturally have certain personality traits, it's important for good leaders to understand, all the different situations require different approaches. Let's see, for example, a leader managing a crisis may need to be more direct, task-oriented, fast, because quick decisions are necessary. But in a different situation, when working with a team on a long-term project, the same leader may need to be more collaborative and focused and slow-paced, and they need to listen to the employees' ideas. One reason I think leadership can change is because people gain experience over time, and they learn things, and they need to adapt to those situations and use the new information they've learned from situations and new situations. So as people face different challenges, they also learn lots of new skills. They learn what works and what does not work. They develop new skills. They become better at adjusting their approach, based on what is needed in that situation and how the team needs you. A good example is like a coach. If you're coaching a sports team, a coach may be very strict during practice to help players improve their skills. But after a difficult loss, the same coach might be more supportive and encouraging. The goal is still the same, but the leadership style changes based on the situation. I have personally witnessed this flexibility in the workplace. And I think some supervisors start out focusing mainly on rules and procedures, and then over time they learn to adapt and build relationships with employees. They improve communication, and productivity. I think overall they become more approachable and balanced. And research from Harvard Business Review often emphasizes that adaptable leaders are much more successful because organizations face constant change, technology, employees' expectations, and workplace environments are always changing, they're always evolving. Hold on, baby. Hold on. Leaders who refuse to adjust leaders who refuse to adjust, they may have difficulty, adapting to new situations. Yeah, so it's important to always be evolving, and you don't want to struggle with the team to keep them motivated. If you're not adjusting, then you're going to have trouble keeping people focused. But yeah, I believe leadership style is not something that you can just stick to forever. I think effective leaders remain, they remain true to their values, but at the end of the day, they need to adapt their styles when it's necessary to meet, different needs for different people, different situations, all of that. So, prompt 2. Reflect on a leader you've worked with or observed. How would you describe their leadership style, and how did it impact the group or organization? Well, I can think of one leader. I observed the manager. I would describe their leadership style as a combination of transformational and people-oriented. I think that she really listened to people and took what they told her and, kind of made it, put herself in their shoes. I think she made an effort to get to know employees personally and regularly asked for feedback and listened to concerns. She encouraged the team to share ideas and personal stuff about each other, and she also had a group chat for all of us to get to know each other and talk to each other and share our personal lives and our work lives. Instead of simply giving orders, they explained why tasks were important and how each person's work contributed to the group and organization. And she talked about a lot of the positive things we were doing, not just the negative things. And one thing that stood out was how they handled mistakes. Instead of immediately criticizing employees, they used mistakes as learning opportunities for everybody else. They created an environment where people felt comfortable asking questions and trying new things. The impact on the team was very positive. The employees seemed very motivated because they felt respected and valued. Communication improved because people were not afraid to speak up and talk and express themselves and their concerns and be themselves. Team members were also willing to help each other out because it was a strong sense of trust and community, and just we all wanted to help each other, help her business, So that was really cool that we were able to help each other out and not be so much in competition with each other. I think that is really important. I think the manager is really the one that sets the tone for the environment if it's going to be competitive or a group setting. And I think it's important to have a group setting where everybody wants to help each other out, because that's how we help her out and we help each other out. But yeah, leadership style is not perfect. I don't think any of them are ever going to be perfect. Sometimes decision making took longer because the manager wanted input from everyone. Situations where quick decisions were needed, the process could become less effective. Despite that challenge, I believe that positive effects outweigh the negative, and employees worked together, and it was just a positive, environment to have every day and talk to employees. I feel like the employees enjoyed working with her and working together, and it showed me a lot about how to influence people and how to be a leader and just about a positive workplace and culture. And it also taught me how to also be more authoritative, and she's still a boss at the end of the day, even though she made it feel like we could talk to her about problems. a leader's attitude and their behavior can directly affect a team. It can motivate a team. It is really the overall performance of a team is the manager. And I feel like, any job is going to make you understand that, because if it's an unexperienced manager, or maybe a manager that didn't really go to school or learn about all of this stuff, I feel like they're kind of at a disadvantage because they don't know about, how easy it is to have a competitive, environment if you're not looking out for that. And yeah, just I feel like education is important at the end of the day. But yes, prompt 3. So let's see. According to Chapter 3, what are some benefits and drawbacks of a task-oriented versus a people-oriented leadership style? Which do you personally lean towards and why? Task-oriented leadership, I feel like I focus on getting things done, so that probably resonates with me, and achieving goals, because we can't help people until we get the tasks done at the end of the day. Meeting deadlines and maintaining productivity. People-oriented leadership focuses on relationships, communication, and employee well-being. I feel like they are both important, obviously. But there are several benefits to a task-oriented leadership style. It helps people stay organized and focused. Expectations are usually very clear, which can help employees get their work done, help people stay organized. And it helps with accountability, efficiency. I feel like this style can be useful when deadlines are tight or when there's a lot of stuff to be done, when there's a lot of projects that need coordination. But I also feel like there are also drawbacks. If leaders focus too much on tasks and not so much employees, they may feel overlooked or undervalued. This can lead to low morale, reduced job satisfaction, and higher stress levels. People aren't going to want to come to work or be happy. But yeah, on the other hand, people-oriented leadership has many strengths as well. Employees often feel respected, supported, and motivated. Strong relationships with employees can improve teamwork, loyalty, communication, organization, overall well-being, because we're at our job most of our lives. So, we want to be in a situation where we feel valued. But there's also drawbacks, Leaders may sometimes spend too much time focusing on relationships that, the productivity may decline, decision-making suffers. It can also be difficult to maintain a high performance if leaders avoid holding employees accountable, and, not focusing on the tasks and more about people's feelings, because there has to be a balance. Personally, I lean towards, I feel like I would lean towards the task-oriented while still wanting to get, people-oriented style. I believe people perform their best when they feel respected and supported, but also we do need to get the stuff done at the end of the day. So when employees feel like they can trust you to get stuff done and be a leader, they're usually more motivated to contribute and work hard. So I do not think leadership should be entirely people-oriented or entirely task-oriented. The best leaders find balance between the two of them. There's always has to be balance, They care about their employees while still managing clear goals, expectations. if I were leading a team project, I would want to make sure everyone felt like they were included and heard, and everyone, got their opinion out there. I would definitely establish deadlines and assign responsibilities at the same time to keep the project on track. We have to get the work done at the end of the day because that's why we're all here. In my opinion, leadership works best when leaders focus on both results and relationships rather than just choosing one or the other, because that's never gonna really, it's not really gonna work out for the best. I feel like we need to have a balance all the time. Everything in moderation. Prompt 4. How does self-awareness of one's leadership trait help improve leadership effectiveness? Share an example from your own experience or observation. I believe self-awareness is one of the most important qualities, for sure, for a leader to have, because you need to be able to recognize things in yourself so you can help other people. You have to understand your strengths, your personality traits, your weaknesses. Also, you need to understand your weaknesses. That's very important. And how your behavior affects others, because it does, believe it or not, really does. And when leaders are self-aware, they can make better decisions and improve their communication. They're also can recognize areas where they need to grow so they can help others grow, because that's our job, A leader who knows they are naturally introverted may make a conscious effort to put in more communication and be more frequent with team members. A leader who knows they tend to be impatient can work on that and work on listening more carefully before responding. It's all about self-awareness. One leadership trait discussed in many leadership studies is conscientiousness, which refers to being organized. Conscientiousness. Sorry, I kind of confused how to say that. Which refers to being organized, dependable, and responsible. Leaders who understand that this is one of their strengths can use it to improve planning and accountability. I definitely have experienced the value of self-awareness during everything, during group projects. I have learned that I often prefer to take charge because I like organization. I like things done the way I want it to be done. I like structure. And while this can help projects stay on schedule, I also learned that sometimes I need to step back and allow others to have the opportunities to contribute their ideas and their skills and their input. Because it's not all about mine. Even though everybody, I feel like, wants to be the main character, feels like the main character, and this is their own life, but it's not just our own life. It's everybody's coming together, and that's beautiful, And it's beautiful to be self-aware about that and know that and learn yourself while learning others. But yeah, I, by recognizing this tendency, I feel like I became more intentional about listening to teammates and taking a second and taking a step back and encouraging other people to participate. And yeah. And as a result of that, I feel like the group discussion becomes more collaborative, and it's more smooth, and we develop better solutions because there's more perspectives that are included, and we all can combine ideas and feel happy about what we've all put into this. And, I have also observed leaders who lack self-awareness, unfortunately. They believe they were, communicating clearly when employees actually felt confused or disconnected. because they did not recognize the problem. It continued to affect team performance. Self-awareness allows leaders to receive feedback and most importantly, learn from their mistakes and, consciously improve and continuously improve. It helps leaders build stronger relationships because they understand and they have other people, they make other people feel like they're understood. All of our actions and decisions, influence everyone. And everyone's important. So, overall, self-awareness is definitely a great opportunity to create growth. Leaders who understand themselves are often better at understanding others. They have the skills and they're equipped to lead more effectively and just be better overall. So yes, in conclusion, I believe leadership and being flexible and adapting to different situations is best. And I think the leaders that I observe demonstrate that I feel like are the best that I've observed. People-focused approach can create trust and motivation, but also having the task-oriented, that helps everybody. Leadership styles, have disadvantages. They also have advantages. We have to just have a balance. But yes, I tend to lead towards task-oriented because we still need to get stuff done, but we can still be people-oriented too. But we need to achieve goals first. But yes, finally, most important, self-awareness plays a really big role in leadership. It helps me understand myself and my strengths and my weaknesses so I can help others. Thank you for listening. I hope I did an okay job.